Ready? All right, we're going to call this special meeting the agenda for June 18th for our budget hearings. We do the roll call, please? Or call to order, I'm sorry, call to order. I did that. So roll call, I'm sorry, roll call, please.
Supervisor
I'm reading her,
Zaragoza?
she moved it down.
Here.
Supervisor Long?
Here.
Supervisor Bennett?
Here.
Supervisor Parks? Here. Supervisor Foy?
Here, Supervisor Bennett, do you want to lead the pledge of allegiance, please?
Hand over heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. All right, so we're going to move to our agenda review. Is there anything on? No agenda, sir? Okay. And we have public comments. Any public comments? No? Great. All right. So we are then going to open this budget hearings. We're here to conduct the Ventura County hearings, adoption of the 2018-19 budget, and receive public testimony. We'll have public testimony tonight at 6 p.m. Hearings continue on a daily basis, but most completed within 14 days calendar year. Officially open in proceedings here. So the title, the budget hearings, 2018 recommended budget for the County of Ventura, fire protection, watershed protections, water districts, county service areas, and other non-general fund activities under the control of the Board of Supervisors, now open for public comment and comment from department agencies. So we're opening the public hearing. Mr. Powers.
Thank you, Chair Foy, board members, and we'll go ahead and get started. If we can cue up the presentation and Catherine come up.
All right. So Supervisor Foy just went through the steps that we're going through for tonight, and one item varies on the department presentations over the last few months. We have done department presentations, and after some point during this presentation, there will be a roll call of those department managers or leaders out there that would need to add or whatever that it's needed to be added for this budget hearing today. So we will go through the budget resolutions as well and detail them out for those adjustments that we have done after the preliminary budget. And lastly, we will have the final board comments.
And some of this is a review from our preliminary presentation on June 5th, so we won't go into the same level of detail, but we do want to also present some post-preliminary adjustments to your board as well.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So this goes through the budget guiding principles. Again, it's based on the established strategic plan, so it's aligned with that board priorities according to the strategic plans. So we go on the budget process. Now we're on the final budget hearing, so it's going to be today and one for tonight. This is actually the summary of the preliminary budget as presented on June 5th. So this is just a rundown of where we were at that time. And we were at $2.23 billion. It's $8.7 million down. With the post-preliminary, that is actually came in at the same level as last year, $1 million more from last year's budget. So we're now at 2.24. And then going through the general fund appropriations, the 2.1% increase, and that will be updated as well. And the general fund purpose revenue stayed at the $418 million with the assumption of the property tax at 3.5%, and the recent update that we have from the assessor's office is that we are coming in at approximately assessor's office right there at 4.3%. So in total full-time equivalent employees, we have 8,925, and that has actually increased, and that will be also detailed out later with our post-preliminary adjustments. So in totality, we have the budget as being structurally balanced. We have seen the reserves increasing, and we'll have to go through how the trend of the reserves. It's not used for ongoing operations. And as in there is that we maintained the services level, included those expanded areas, and the continued infrastructure and technology investments, and of course the reinforced high credit rating. So we go for the unassigned. Go, Mike.
Yeah, you're waiting for a comment. No, we'll keep moving. So that's the unassigned reserve, the rainy day fund. Yeah, can't quite see that. You can see here because of the work of the departments, we're projecting to come in 15 million positive, and this is the recommended assignment of those funds, 3 million to the unassigned rainy day fund and 12 million to the assigned. And that would take us to, as you can see there on the assigned reserves, about a total of about 52 million in the assigned reserves. And there's the overall appropriations. As you can see, it's about half general fund and about half enterprise and special districts. And then down at the bottom, the total budget, as you can see, with the post-preliminary adjustments, comes in pretty close to where we're at with this year's budget. There's the trend in the FTEs. FTEs by department. And one of the big changes, you want to touch on the, just real lightly, the reorg?
Thank you. So the overall increase is 21 FTEs altogether. There was, if you would look at the Health and Human Services, we have 165 negative adjustments, and an offset to that is going to the enterprise fund. We have positions that were actually sitting in the general fund department. So for the in order to line up the program functions from the general fund to the non-general fund, we have Ventura County Medical Center, which is actually an enterprise fund. So the increase there on the enterprise is basically just for the reassignment of those positions that were sitting on the general fund. It's good for accounting purposes, for consistency in terms of trying to get the accounting, instead of the transitions from one bucket to the next bucket, why don't we just go through this direct allocation to go to their respective budgets instead of going through the general fund, and then we allocate it back to the non-general fund. So this is just a matter of a cleanup. So these are the post-preliminary budget adjustments, so a total of $2 million in general fund and the non-general fund of $8 million, or a $10 million increase from the prelim budget. So now it's at 2.245. The detail for that is on the general fund, we have $1.85 million increase in appropriations, and the non-general fund at $8 million increase in appropriations. Now, the breakdown for the general fund starts with the RMA, Resource Management Agency, where we are adding funding for the office furniture replacements, improvement in their office for reconfiguration of their office for a better layout, and they're using a $250,000 against their trust, and that would be an increase in their appropriations. Now, in the special accounts and contribution, we have $200,000 for a one-time funding for Growing Works program. It's on we have used the capital project, so there is going to be a step-by-step on the capital project. We have previously slated 1.6, and this is increased, so we're reducing the capital projects and assigned $200,000 from that. And then we also have a $30,000 annual contribution for the long-term care ombudsman, previously funded through the CDBG, so we will allocate that separately from that funding, and that's $30,000. And we have the $4 million vehicle license fees realignment revenue adjustment to the medical center due to increased state apportionment year over year. So previously we have the Huron contract, which was projected to have a total of $35 million benefits. We recalculated that and adjusted it to the midpoint level, which is at $30 million. which reduced the revenue enhancement that was actually a part of their initiative by $2.8 million, and their expense savings by 2.2, which is a total of $5 million adjustments from the $35 million previously presented to you. Now, on the capital projects, we have, again, as I said earlier, the funding for the growing works was to reduce the capital projects by the $200,000 and the 30. So this is just the offset of that. And we also have some additional savings from our debt service related to the fiscal year 18-19 trans issuance. So that's in relation to the debt service that we have. We're updating the costs and premium based on the final trans pricing. So originally, we had $170 million on the prelim to be borrowed. Upon further calculation and projection for cash flow, the need was reduced down to $144 million. Also, our assumed interest rate then was at 1.7. We got a better rate at 1.44%. So all those netted down to that $3.2 million. On our non-general fund, we have some projects that were delayed due to the priorities that we had to do for this fiscal year, such as the Thomas Fire, that we prioritized the Public Works Road Fund. We were budgeting the Box Canyon, Yerba Buena, and Carlisle Road of about $1.9 million. So it's just a matter of rebudgeting that. The VCMC is also the same as the previous presentation on the URON's adjustments, so the net for them is $2.2 million for the appropriations. And then due to the timing, we also have the Fire Protection District for the City of Santa Paula annexation of the Fire Department. So that equated to $2.9 million for those additional positions that were added. And then, again, we have the deferred projects that also are being budgeted for the Arroyo Conejo North Fork repair. In total, we also have a net change from the prelim to the post adjustments to 17 FTEs. We have 6 from the CEO, though 5 of those are coming from probation to centralize their HR. And then we have the PIO bilingual position to assist on the public information function. And then we have the county clerk and recorder. We have a fixed term now being converted to a permanent position. And then the elections, we have 5 positions, the same also, fixed term being converted to permanent. And then the adjustments of -5 for the probation is due to those transfers of those positions to go to CEO, HR, centralization. And then we have the 10 fire positions for the Santa Paula annexation.
Catherine, just to go back, if you could. There we go. Back on VCMC, so what I understand is being done there is the savings, Huron had projected low, middle, maximum, and we're taking it from the maximum to the middle in terms of their projected savings. Right. That's correct. That's what that adjustment is.
That's correct.
Thank you.
And that was actually when we have here on the third bullet on the special accounts and contribution, we have from 35 to 30, which is at midpoint, reduces the revenue enhancement and the expense savings. So altogether, this is the general fund budget. In terms of the appropriations, it increased by $24.7 million. And the net cost, or the general purpose revenue, they're balanced out. We have the $21.5 million increase in our general purpose revenue. And we'll go through the breakdown on how that was allocated. So this is the breakdown. Okay. Okay. 42% of the $1.1 billion goes to admin of justice, the public safety, and then Health and Human Services, followed with that, we invested your board priorities on the Health and Human of $430 million, or 39%. And then we have the other general fund, which includes those debt services, the financing and capital that goes to the other general fund, and then general government, and then the environmental balance. And this is the general purpose revenue. 59% of such is going to the admin of justice, or 247,000, and then followed by the other general fund of $65 million of 16%, and then the general government environmental balance at 3%, and then health and human services at 12%.
And this just gives you a sense of our general purpose revenue projections. You see the dotted line is our adopted budget, and then the blue line is the actuals. You see we're conservative to pretty close to accurate there. We work very closely with our assessor's office to dial in that property tax number in particular. We'll go through here what we touched on a bit last time actually went through it thoroughly with our preliminary budget presentation by focus area, per your board strategic plan. You can see the increase in public safety there. A couple of key points is the implementation of the online paperless system for the DA and public defender's offices. One other point I want to raise down at the bottom, as your board may be aware, so when your board adopts your budget, it's also adopting services for several of the cities. So 5 of the 10 cities is police services for those cities, such as Camarillo, Thousand Oaks. And then for fire, it's 7 of 10 cities now that we've annexed in Santa Paula. And in terms of other projects for the sheriff, you can see the Todd Road Jail, the health programming unit is in there, as well as the Pay for Success grant to reduce recidivism. Community well-being, about a 7.6% increase to Human Services Agency, and about a $200,000 or 20% increase to Area Agency on Aging. Of course, with our aging seniors, we want to really focus on that, and they've got some special grants there as well to focus on home-based care. AAA does. Mental health services, you can see, won't go through all of it, but the RISE community-based program. Public health, it's amazing. They oversee 42 grants, and I'm speaking to Supervisor Parks earlier. One of the things we'll bring to your board shortly is a sort of a discussion of all the different services public health provides, because it's really wide and varied. And then animal services, you can see a pretty good increase there from the county side, as well as the cities continue to increase their contributions. And community well-being, and I'll also increasing our budget, particularly for administrative support in the medical examiner's office. You want to take the rest of that?
Oh, okay. So on the community well-being, we are increasing as well for the medical examiner of $314,000. And then hospital replacement wing, we're expanding service levels at the VCMC clinics. As you can see, the outpatient visits is actually projected to reach 503,000 visits for next fiscal year. And we have maintained the $15 million general fund contribution to the VCMC. And upcoming for the next fiscal year, we have the opening of the 2 ORs in summer, and then the reopening of the PICU, or the Pediatrics Intensive Care Unit, and also expanding the emergency department in summer. And this shows us the trend of the Medi-Cal growth, where we are at the point to where it was significant increases in 2014, 15, and then now it's beginning to go the other direction to 222,000 lives for Medi-Cal. And we have the community well-being. Again, the $30 million was a $35 million adjusted to $30 million partnership with the URUN consultants to implement the best practices. Along with that, we have changes in the medical centers supplemental funding. We have the EPP and the QIP, which are brand new, of a total of $46 million. Those are projected at 80%. So there's about $57 million in that bucket. Now we go to homeless.
Sure. So we want to just list out, there's a lot of programs and funding that your board designates for homeless services, as well as state and federal funds. And you can see some of it up there. We're continuing to fund the Homeless Prevention Rapid Rehousing Program. That's rental assistance for folks up to 6 months, including some utilities assistance. And that's very effective because 80% of those folks stay housed about a year later. See some other funds, $2.5 million continuum of care funding. Whole person care project, the healthcare agencies project, which is working very effectively along with HSA, and they have 750 people signed up, and this is for the highest utilizers of care, most of whom are homeless. I think there was a number they threw out last time that 5 of these folks in 6 months had been to the ER a collective 430 times. And you can see they're really improving, taking care out to the community to reduce those costs. 1.9 million general fund contribution to the RAIN Transitional Living Center, and that's very significant because that's for all the folks in our county, especially those from the cities.
That's all general fund.
And that's all general fund money, that's correct. VCMC is also funding half of a recuperative care discharge program, and that's turned out to be very, very effective. The VCMC clinics under their homeless program provide care to 14,500 patients. And then your board also gave us direction to move forward, partnering with the cities on a crisis year-round shelter. Though it's not included in the budget, we have left room in the budget
And
to
Mr. Chair,
accommodate those.
Michael, how are we doing with the cities? Are the cities coming to us and working with us on that homeless issue? No.
The cities are working very well with us. We're working very closely with Oxnard and Ventura in particular right now, and we'll be bringing an update to your board, in fact, tomorrow on the
Great.
status of that. Yep.
Thank you.
Good government, you've seen this before, of course, increasing the unassigned fund balance. The assigned fund balance, we don't want to forget that because that's very significant. Pre-funding capital projects is something that's been a good practice of your boards. Keeps us strong financially, and we have a very low borrowing percentage, partly because of that. See the Lean Six efforts, and I won't go through all the other items there. A lot of exciting things going on in energy efficiency, both the Clean Power Alliance as well as the Regional Energy Network that we just got approved by the PUC, and some significant IT investments there as well. See the top long-term bond rating there. And some of these on good government, you see about a 3.6% increase to these departments. Auditor, even though it's showing a dip, most of that is because of the financial management system being implemented. Operationally, there'll be increases due to cash projection system as well as external auditors for specialized audits, and an additional senior program administrator for payroll. And you can see some other adjustments there.
So, Mike, I think on the other two, we have to note that the elections has a $1.4 million set aside on the fund balance.
Very good, that's right. Okay, on these, of course, as your board will recall, we set aside about $4.4 million for the general plan update, and that's about how much would be remaining, $1.2 million. And required maintenance, $8.4 million. Something it'd be easy not to do that, but we'll pay for it in the end if we don't. And your boards continue to invest in that year after year. And that's a little bit of an increase in that amount, actually. And the budget does include SB 1. Now, of course, there is the initiative to repeal that on the ballot. We would be able to keep the funds that we have up through December 31st. And then if it was repealed, then we wouldn't get any future funding after January 1. We also use general fund dollars, particularly in places like planning, to try to keep our fees low so that if we have cost increases there, we're trying to cover those with general funds so we keep the fees reasonable. And here's a series of capital projects that you're aware of, I believe. We won't go through all of these. We'll just touch on them, as you can see. The PeopleSoft upgrade, very important to need a property tax system. That's on track and going very, very well. New hangars at the airport, fire stations, helicopters for fire and sheriff, Potrero Road bike lane. And you can see the rest of those there. And here's projects under consideration, bridge improvements, the DA's Family Justice Center, repurposing of 2323 Knoll building. That's one of the buildings we're looking at in Ventura as possible year-round shelter. We'll hear more about that tomorrow. And NPDES, that's sort of a sleeping giant that we're keeping an eye on because there's not a new permit there yet, but there's probably going to be in the next couple of years, and that has additional costs attached to it.
Thank you. On the third quarter update, we already have presented this also, and as recommended, we're recommending $15 million fund balance to go to the assigned and unassigned. And of that, we have also a year-end adjustment that will be presented to your board tomorrow. And during the year, we have done deletions of some vacant positions that are actually unfunded. And we're going through the transition from the centralization of the HR probation to the county HR. And then the GSA is undergoing studies. Two of them is the fleet utilization study and the facilities condition evaluation to address those repaired maintenance, as Mike was describing earlier. On labor, now we have 90% covered for active MOUs. We've seen savings through the PEPRA. 33% of our employees, or 2,665 employees now, which now we're savings are being materializing because of the difference in the pensionable income. And we also have the Thomas Fire recovery in December, which we are anticipating 15.3 disaster response recovery that is going to be funded mostly from FEMA and Cal OES. We have a property tax allocation coming from the state and an additional funding for the debris removal share of cost. We will go through the VCMC financial position update. Briefly, we also have presented that to your board, but we'll briefly touch on them. And basically, the current year budget is on track, yielding a $15 million fund balance. So I will call Mr. Johnson to at least provide some clarification on the VCMC budget.
Good afternoon, Chair Foy, members of the board, and CEO Powers. On the June 5th meeting, we presented this slide. There are slight modifications to this slide, as Catherine mentioned, to the Huron buckets that they had presented. We've gone from the high to the midpoint, but the details of this slide were shared with you. With that one modification, the slide remains the same. As far as the reasons why we're slightly off budget, those were also shared. The mitigation plan was also shared. If there are any questions, would be more than happy to answer those.
I don't really have any questions, but I have comments. I appreciate you using that midpoint. I think that's a much more conservative way to look at it, so I appreciate all that. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
It's also nice to see more operating rooms being open, as well as the PICU, the Pediatrics Intensive Care Unit, and those are great services for the community. And I know we think in terms right now of budget, it's going to bring in revenue, those things, but it's just wonderful to have more services available in those important areas.
Thank you. Both of those, the opening of the ORs and opening of the pediatric ICU. Pediatric ICU, we're building the entire PEDS program. The ICU itself, initially, when you open, it's not a moneymaker, but it's more of a very much needed service to this end of the county. So looking forward to both of those. Thank you.
And also, Johnson, the fact that you've had such a good increase in primary care patients coming to your ambulatory clinics creates a very positive opportunity to increase services in specialty care and surgeries and admissions to the hospital as well.
That entire continuum, Mike, and the throughput for that, we are diligently working on that to maximize on that. There's a lot of potential there.
And I think there was obviously a lot of the funding we get through the state, because we're a public hospital, is through the waiver, the Medi-Cal waiver program. And some of those programs, like the quality improvement, QIP, and the EPP, you've budgeted those conservatively, I believe, at about 80%?
Yes, one at 75 and one at 80%, both very conservatively. Good business sense.
Absolutely.
Well, and one thing I want to make sure that we hear back on this. As everyone is watching very carefully, we hit a midpoint as to our savings and so forth, but I don't think any of us want to be here next year and go, oh, well, now we found out. So I know that you'll be looking at this on a regular basis, but I would like to ask that it does come back in 6 months or so that we get an understanding of how well we're doing too. You would have to decide on that timing, but I think that would be appropriate since there's so much going on.
Supervisor Long, with the recommendation of the Oversight Committee and the CEO's office, we have moved oversight now to a monthly basis versus quarterly basis. So these updates are being shared there on a monthly basis. But we will definitely make sure that the full board gets updated on our financials, perhaps maybe on a quarterly basis.
Yeah, we'll combine it with our quarterly budget update to your board.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
One minor adjustment on the slide of the budgeted net income is actually 0.2, not 0.8, 0.2 loss. This is just to show where we were in terms of the profit and loss trend for the last, since 2010. There's a dip in 13-14, and that's because of the Cerner implementation. During that period, there were some adjustments that needed to be done in the system, reducing the volume. We also have extraordinary adjustments, and year to year, we tend to have some adjustments because of our cost report settlements, and during that year, we have adjustments that was done. So in 16-17, we were at $5.68 million, and for this fiscal year, we're projecting negative 200,000. This is just a rundown again of the 5-year projection. We presented this to your board on the prelim and on the net county cost for 2019-20, when the assumption rates from the retirement funds comes in, and this reflects those adjustments of about 1.54% if compared to 2016-17 increase in retirement due to the demographics assumption and the market return assumptions to 7.25% from 7.5%.
And Ms. Rodriguez, this is pretty consistent with what you had already included in your 5-year projection. What the actions that Sarah just took in terms of the lowering the assumption rate and the demographic changes?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So on the out years, however, we're showing some surpluses because of the expiration of the amortization from pre-2004 impact in there, and that's approximately $48 million. So that's why we have a retirement change of about $41 million for that 2021 carried over, a little bit of an improvement, so that's $1.5 million change. And here's the property tax. These are the assumptions that are used in property tax. We have 3.5 for the 18-19 and so on. So salaries and benefits.
Catherine, real
Yes.
quick, I appreciate you, even though the assessors come out and said, I think we're going to be closer to 4.3, as you said earlier, that you're using a nice conservative number, and if something changes, we'd be there. But it sounds like we're already here, and I just really appreciate you guys not going out on the far end, because there's some other, I'll make some other comments after, but I just want to say thank you for doing that. That's the right thing to do.
I do have one question, if I could. Forecast for 2019-20, we're using 3.5 for Prop 172.
Yes.
And can you explain why that one's 3.5 and we were at 2.5?
Yeah, so basically these assumptions are seen on our projections in the historical trend. So when we did the budget, we were at 2.5 at that time, but when we're seeing the actuals, it yielded to be at around that pace. So that's why we increased it 3.5. And then for the 2021, we're trying to be conservative.
Get back to the historical trend.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
How does the
You guys look 2 years out.
projections by the assessor fare over the years? Are they pretty right on there in terms of what they project?
They're pretty right on, actually. A little bit of a 0.03% or something, but they're pretty right on. Yeah, a little bit conservative in our projection, but they're out there.
So generally, then, we're being more conservative than well, that's what conservative is all about, than what actually is coming in.
Yeah.
Good job. Thank you.
This is just for their retirement contribution percentage to pensionable income. And there are those challenges that we have still facing. We have the HSA because of the shift in the costs from the state to the counties. We have the Mental Health Services Act funds. Yes, ma'am?
Thank you. I would just say real quick back on that HSA, the IHSS piece. The state did set up and we've talked about this, a formula to cover that. The problem is, there's a couple of problems with it. One of them is it gets worse in the outer years, so it's okay right now. But the other problem is right now what's happening. In order to cover this increased cost, they're taking growth in realignment funds from public health and mental health programs. And that's already starting this year, and it's only going to get worse. And that's why we've really initiated a dialogue at the state level with Diane Cummings, the governor's chief of staff, to just really dig into this, because we have to reopen this formula. And she's agreed actually to stay on and lead that for us. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that.
And then we continue to see payment delays from the state and the federal funding, which affects the cash flows. And then we have, of course, the public safety and the realignment. We have possible increased workloads because of the bail reform on the Humphrey case. And then we have the SB1, as Mike said earlier, that's actually, though we have projected 10.7 million. Yes, sir.
Okay. I was going to just hit it right after. How much you were just starting to say it. I was just going to ask if you didn't. How much are we potentially can lose with SB1?
So we have projected $10.7 million for the next fiscal year, but if in case it gets repealed, it will be up through October. The impact will be from November and through the end of the year is approximately $7 million. So then the next fiscal years will be that $10 million. So right now, our road fund will be at the pace of $19 million, from 27 now down to 19. Yeah.
Catherine, on
Yes.
SB1, if it's repealed, we have money till October, is what you said, right?
Yes.
And then after October, then what?
November.
If it's repealed, then
then we would have the $7 million impact for this for that year, for this coming year.
and then we project it out for the next few years.
Yes, on the next, correct.
Okay, so I think it's important that everybody realize that we need SB1.
Yeah.
It's extremely important for all the voters, for that matter. Well, the voters know, because if it's repealed, then we're in trouble. Thank you.
I know the Transportation Commission is putting together a plan to figure out how to deal with it if they lose it. And I would imagine in those projects that you are initiating, that takes a lot of money to begin, and
That's
it's
right.
not going to be able to get completed in time. Those are the kind of things we want to look at.
Yeah, the Rice Street, Fifth Street is a big one too. The flyover in Oxford. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. And we have the VCMC cash flow, as what we have said earlier. Now we have positives, and we have continued efforts to lower overhead for the last 8 years now. The internal service funds rates were kept to the minimum, or at least for this fiscal year was the rates were at flat. We have the Lean Six programs, stable property taxes, very conservative estimates there. Pursuit of grants, as you can see earlier, was AAA. They have a big grant that's coming in for the next 4 or 5 years. VCMC Hospital completed under budget, approximately $13 million that could be reused for the Feiner Wing project. Of course, we have the fiscal diligence and conservative projections to have lowered our retirement assumptions. And we have the credit worthiness, as we have seen on our ratings. In summary, because of the collaborative efforts from our departments and all employees, and there are the savings that we see from our programs for Lean Six and the SEC efforts, we have a cumulative savings now of $33 million. The strategic workforce management and reducing costs and mitigating costs to be in line with their budgets for those absorbing the costs within their departments. And of course, your board direction and support in trying to prioritize those capitals and then expenditures that we have, keeping in mind that we have the budget to adhere with. And of course, we have the department heads and fiscal leadership team as always. Now, go ahead.
So just in summary, so it's a balanced budget that's maintaining service levels. And I think we've also been careful because the economy's been good. It's about the 8th year of a positive economy. We want to be careful not to establish too much of our base budgets on this high water mark of revenues. And I think with the department's support and leadership, we have not done that. And we're building our reserves so that we can continue to stay stable going forward. But we continue to invest in technology, required maintenance, new facilities, and so forth. So, and continue to meet your board's priorities in terms of the strategic plan. So with that, I think next up, we could go to the departments and see,
sorry.
whoa. There. Finally tuned. There we
There
go.
you go.
Perfect. So there are departments. I think we could go through the departments and see if they have any questions or comments, or go from there.
So we've got a list of all the different ones, and so we can start with our general government. It's from our assessor. You good? You want to? Okay. Dan wants to speak.
Good afternoon. I'm available if you'd like to speak to the assessor or have questions or comments, but I have no questions.
No, I don't think anybody. No, but I do want to say I appreciate you guys are always very accurate on your numbers, and I appreciate that. That makes a big difference for the budgeting. Jeff?
Nothing to add at this time. Any questions of the board? I just want to thank your board, thank my CEO's office, my staff. Very generous with a few additional positions this year, and appreciate that. Just thank you for your
Great.
support.
Wonderful. All right, guys. Board, anybody have comments? No? We'll listen. Great. Clerk recorder? Anybody out there? Oh, there you are. Okay, thank you. And then Leroy?
No, we have no requests. We thank the CEO and the board for the projected budget.
Thank you. And nothing from your office, Mike? Anybody?
Nope, we're good.
All right. Treasurer tax collector somewhere? Nope. And we don't have an agricultural commissioner, but from that department at all? Oh. Pardon? Well, and, hang on, sir. When we're done here, I'm going to have you do public comments up here on this mic so everybody can hear you. Okay, thank you. Our farm advisor, anything? Nothing? Animal services? Tara? Thank you. Thank you. And Public Works, Jeff? Yeah.
Public Works, so your report.
It's
don't
not
want
Public
anything?
Works Week, is it? Or?
Yes.
And Chris? Thank you. Harry? No? You're welcome. Okay, and then our healthcare agency, Johnson, you're,
Nothing else to report, but just continued support. Really appreciate that from your board and CEO's office.
thank you. Okay. Administration, Public Health, that's your whole health examiner, no? Got some news people there. Human Services.
Nothing further to report.
That's the first time I've ever heard you say that. You didn't want anything. Wow. And is the DA here?
Yes.
Oh, here.
Stuart Gardner on behalf of the DA. We have nothing to report, but we're happy to answer questions.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And probation?
Good
There he
afternoon.
is.
Nothing to report. Appreciate your board's support and the support of CEO's office.
Thank you. And our public defender? There he is. Great. Well, thank you very much. And then our sheriff is, here you are. Okay. Thank you, sir. General fund, any special accounts, contribution, capital project, I think we're all good. Non-general fund, we're all pretty much there. Anything from child support services or anything? No? Oh, there it is, okay. Great, thank you. Our libraries? There she is.
Good afternoon, Nancy Shramlin, County Library Director. We have nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. MHSA? No? Our service area of Public Works Roads Funds, HSA, I think we're good. Fire protection.
Good afternoon, Long Island Fire Protection District, nothing to report. Thank you very much for the support, CEO and board.
Thank you, sir. And our watershed protection. Okay, enterprise funds, airports.
Good afternoon, Dr. Rubio, Department of Airports, nothing new to report. Thank you for the support.
Thank you. Harbor. There she is.
Susie Watkins, we have nothing additional to report. We will be managing within the enterprise fund.
Thank you, Susie. BHS, GSA, where's our, there he is.
GSA, behalf of Dave Sasek, we have nothing to report. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, thank you for what you guys are doing. And then IT, where's our, hey, you holding two hats, we're not paying you double, man.
As part of our Lean Six program.
Thank you for your board and your board's continued support and our CEO's support of innovation at the county, and also thank you to our fantastic technology team and IT services for maintaining costs but still driving innovation.
Thank you, appreciate it. Did I miss anybody that wants to speak? No? Oh, now hang on, not yet, not yet. Not yet, I will not miss you, I promise. Mr. Powers?
Only one last thing I would say is just to really see the group here. It takes all these people here to get to this point. The department heads, the fiscal leadership, nights, weekends. It takes a ton of work to get here. Catherine Kay, the budget analyst, the auditor's office, Jeff and his team. We work very closely together. Jill, Joanne, Katie, everybody there. It's a lot of work it takes to get to this point. We cover it pretty quickly, but we just really appreciate everybody's leadership and support, and your boards. Thank you.
No, and I would agree with you. I don't want to just run through this and all the no comments, but I know how much hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, probably say thousands of hours that go in with everybody to put all this together and for you guys to work it together, for them to be comfortable. I'm sure there's a few things people would love, but you guys have come together to make it work, so I do appreciate that. And one thing I would say is, for my colleagues up here that have supported your agencies and the hard work you guys have done, if you read today where Monterey County's $36 million in the hole, they're laying people off, and up here we don't have any kinds of thoughts of that because you've done such a great job working hard to maintain. It was funny, in the last budget meeting we had the other day, and we talk about that, where you hear, oh, government's hiring thousands of people and doing it. We've had less than, on our general fund, less than 1% over the 10 years that we've been, and even in our non-general fund, it's only been 1.1% over a 10-year period of time. We had ACA, we had all the other things that have caused that. So I do appreciate how you have been able to maintain the service levels, done the things that need to be done for the people of this community and this county, and without saying, we just throw a whole bunch more bodies at it, more people. You've really looked and said, how can we continue to provide more services that are needed and try to find more effective, efficient ways? And as a taxpayer, all taxpayers together, but I would just commend you on doing that, because that's not something that every county, every city in the states have done. So I want to say thank you for that. And I do appreciate that. And again, we're not in that position of laying people off. We're in a position of putting money in reserves and going forward and telling this county, even through disasters, we can continue to move forward. So thank you. I don't know if anybody, Mike?
Chair Foy, thank you. Just one more thing, and we mentioned working nights and weekends and so forth, and there's everybody in here has been doing it. But I really want to especially call out the folks at HCA, Johnson and Kim, Ursula Sutherland, Evelyn Hamilton, Dee Pupa, Elizabeth Narcy. I mean, it is just a ton of work that I hear about, I get to see, and it all rolls up into these nice slides. But it really is just a ton of hard work nights and weekends, and we're very fortunate to have these people that committed to sustaining our healthcare system. So, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I also want to thank you, Mike, and thank Catherine and the staff for an excellent budget. I know it takes a lot of work, to prepare a budget. In fact, when I was in Oxnard, I used to have my own budget, and I know it took, lots of nights to put a budget together, but I see all the agency heads and all the workers that are here. It's just tremendous. We also, one of the things I'd like to show, we have an excellent credit rating. As was mentioned before, in Monterey, they're suffering, but here we are with AAA ratings, and in the past, I've gone to S&P, to New York, and also to San Francisco, and some of those folks are, if every city and county in the state would have the same budgets we have, it would be even a greater state, than what we have now. So I want to thank all the staff and especially all the workers, all the people that are out there watching on TV or on their computers. Thank to all the employees. We have 9,000 employees that are just excellent, excellent employees, and that giving that service to the community or constituency is really important. So I really want to thank you for that. And again, we're at 90% negotiations with their labor and their unions, and this is fantastic. And so I just want to thank them also for working with us. So thank you again to all of you and all the employees for the excellent, excellent job that you're doing for the county. Thank you.
Supervisor Long?
Thank you. I thought this was appropriate. I got a phone call from an elated constituent today, and my office passed her through because it's not often you get to hear accolades of our employees and of our departments in doing good work. And for the almost year and a half that I have been, it just seems like I get more of those. And I want to thank everybody because along with budget, it's also the services. And that's really what the constituents see. They don't see our budgets and how much things cost. What they see is the customer service they give, the employee that's helping them out, the service to their mother at the hospital, and so forth. So I appreciate that everyone doesn't forget about that. That is the end game. I know it takes a lot to make this happen, but I do appreciate everyone's time and effort as to doing this because the calls that I get are really about the support and the success that our department has. And the Thomas Fire, with all of you and the departments that were affected by that, is shown strongly. And I know hopefully we will have no more things to recover with next year, but we know we can do it, and I just appreciate everyone's efforts with it. So thank you.
And I just also wanted to echo what the chair said. You're talking about Monterey County, talking with supervisor from Sonoma County. They just had terrible devastation from the fires up there, and how they are also have zero money in reserves. And it's because they haven't had the ability to do the kind of budgeting that we have. And at a time when they really need it, they don't have it. So I just really appreciate our board's commitment to sticking with increasing those reserves so we have them. And I really like where we're putting the monies this year, particularly a lot in, for example, we have public safety covered and a lot going towards homeless individuals. A lot of things we need to do to step up to the plate we are doing, and I'm just really delighted that we are able to do that. And also realizing so much of what we do involves working with good partners, and that's with our non-government organizations, our nonprofits, and how having those relationships is really important. And then just finally, I've worked with so many different individuals over the years through our office and just this last year, and it is those individuals, the employees, that really step up, that make us shine. And I just am so proud of the people we have working for us at Ventura County, and I just want to thank everyone for the good work that they do. It is exceptional. It is a wonderful organization to belong to, and I'm honored to be a part of it. Thank you.
It's an honor that the public trust us to deliver these essential services that are out there that's part of the county. And I'm not just saying it, it really is an honor to work with so many talented people that are genuinely committed to the mission of the county. So thank you very much. I hope you'll pass that on to all the employees in your departments.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And then, yes, I think we have our speaker. So, sir, you want to come down? 3 minutes, yes.
Sorry, I just recently got out of the hospital. Just a suggestion for your board. You may want to call.
First, sir, real quick, could you state your name, please?
I'm sorry. My name is Walter J. Snyder.
Thank you.
I've been in Ventura probably over 40 years, and I'll give you the truth about some of your hospitals, and I'll make some suggestions for all your board members. God spoke here about 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And I'll tell you about the Thomas Fire too, what happened. But anyway, I want to address this issue. I just got out of the hospital at St. John. I think you need a committee and have the people to come and talk about the service of the hospital. You have no committee. You have all these department here, but you need to listen to the people. And this may be a suggestion, probably promote on the TV, newspaper, and ask all the people to come in here. Your hospital is terrible. The Civil Rights Department is investigating your hospital. I could tell you St. John, I just got out of St. John Hospital. After they made $10,000, they need another room. They dumped me out. They didn't even tell me about my CAT scan, X-ray, or nothing. Okay, and then my back and leg were messed up. They couldn't even wait for my family. They got me a cab. So you need to listen to the people about the service. You could put all that money up there. That don't mean nothing if you're not doing the service. And also another thing, I was brought here from Mississippi. I used to work for Point Magoo, and they had messed up the program. And they were using me as a scapegoat and some other Mexican and a black, and they fired us. And because we wouldn't sign the contract, that the missile worked, and the missile blew up in, I think, 1986 or 85. And they ended up blackballing most of the black and Mexican. And we have no job, and they had a way to block, had contact. They knew how to block people from getting unemployment. They wouldn't even give me housing, nothing. I had to end up going up to L.A. for a while. I had to come back, and later on, I had no insurance. I lost my house. They repossessed my car. No one helped me. And I came back into the county hospital there, and we had no insurance. And they told us that they would assist us. And the only thing we had to do, they went up, took us in a little room, told the only thing they had to do is take a blood test. And it was about 90% were Mexican American, and it was about 2 black. And they went in there, and they weren't doing a blood check. They inject me with something. I spoke to the board about 30 years ago about this. And I filed a complaint with the risk management and other people, and no one actually did anything about it. Because God finna bring a curse on your hospital, that mental hospital just didn't burn out. Because they used to recruit people. I was on the bus. The mental hospital used to recruit most of 90% of the Mexican people, tell them they'll get their money and all this stuff, and they will actually experiment on these people. You need to talk to the public, not to all these departments. They're not getting in the service. I just got out the hospital. I'm very sick now, and I had to call the Justice Department. They said, they do it. You need to contact the Civil Rights Department. They have jurisdiction. They got so terrible toward black and Mexican and all the other minorities. You need to look at their data.
Sir?
And how portable is the service?
Sir, okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
Which hospital are you referring to?
Okay, recently I just got out of St. John Hospital, and you can see all the protests.
Oxnard?
Oxnard, yeah.
Okay.
You can see all the protests out there on the street.
Okay.
And I will give you a copy. Even the Justice Department asked me to.
Thank you. We needed clarification
and then
on that.
the county too. The county in I have risk management. Even my paperwork for risk management. I'm just going to give you a little overview. After they inject all of us, we came to the board back I think it was in the 1990s or something like that. And
Sir, let me just say here, I appreciate you coming to us. We're probably not the one. We're not the one you really need to be speaking to.
No, I'm just telling you what service you need. This is just a suggestion. You said how great your service is. You need to have like an open forum for like a week and put it in the newspaper and let people come here and you really tell you what type of service you have. You have no committee to give you some feedback, and the Justice Department also could give you some feedback what type of service you get in here. And also, you have Google, you could go and see how many lawsuits you got against the hospital in Oxnard too, and it will give you an indicator what type of service. I'm just trying to help you.
Sure. Yeah, well,
because,
go ahead.
let me just state this last statement.
Sure.
when you do not do anything, you bring in shooters and people that, may harm people. I'm just saying, have a committee that you could resolve a lot of these problems. There is problem out there. You have nobody here talking about, you tell me how wonderful service you have. You never open a forum or send anything out to the community and ask them what type of service they're getting.
Yeah.
So this is all I'm suggesting,
Okay.
Let me complete my, I got 2 minutes.
Okay, we only give 3 minutes. You've had about 6 or 8. But the CEO's office oversees this part of the whole parts of the county. Let him speak real quick.
So, sir, again, thank you so much for coming to speak to us today. We'll do 2 things. We'll follow up with you to connect you with somebody at St. John's that you can speak to, as well as connect you with our healthcare director, Johnson Gill, who's sitting right behind you. And we do have meetings where folks can come and share their perspective on what's needed and what's being provided. And so we'll make sure that happens. Thank you again.
You're missing my main point. I'm talking about have an open forum for the people to tell you the truth about your service or your hospital. And you ever have a little budget and have a committee that will come back and report to you their finding.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay. All right. So I think that's all of our speakers speaking. So we're going to take testimony tonight at 6 p.m. this evening. And after the public testimony, deliberate and maybe take a straw vote as necessary for the general fund budgets, and also the non-general fund budget. And then we'll adopt detailed deliberation, just and exhibits, and then we'll look at adopting our budget. Okay? Okay. And so then we're going to adjourn until 6 tonight. Thank you. We'll re-adjourn then. All right, we're going to come back into session. We're going to continue this public hearing as if we had talked about. All right.
All right. Good evening, Supervisor Chair Foy, members of the board, CEO Powers. For the record, my name is Catherine Rodriguez, Chief Financial Officer. Now we're going through the last final budget hearings for the day, and we've gone through this process already. And these are the departments that we have separated from the general fund and non-general fund, just for reference. And
I think, I just want to go back just real quick.
Sure.
And just when you see that, all those different departments, the 25 or so different departments, and the scope of services and the breadth and scope of county services, it's a lot. And that's why the budget is $2.245 billion. And when you think about it, the county by itself is 3 times larger than all 10 cities combined in terms of the scope and reach of services. Partly that's because the county also provides safety services for many of the cities in the counties, as well as the county provides social and health services and harbors and airports and libraries and animal services and all that too. So there's just a lot packed into that one slide.
Right.
And the county provides negotiations for those.
And the county does the labor negotiations for all those safety. That's right. Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Catherine.
Yes, sir.
You're under the gun because John said we have to do this in 12 minutes, so go ahead.
That's a record, huh?
I'll try to do this.
So stop talking, John.
Okay, so we've gone through this earlier today, and this is just a summary of where we are in terms of how big or size of the budget is. The post-prelim now, as Mike was saying, is at $2.245 billion. And we've gone through this also. These are the post-preliminary adjustments that increase the budget for that $10 million. We have the general fund, $250,000 for the office furniture for RMA, and then we have the $4.23 million adjustments for the following. We have the $200,000 for one-time funding for the Growing Works program, and then we have the $30,000 annual contribution for the long-term ombudsman, which was previously budgeted at the CDBG grant. And now we have the $4 million adjustment for the realignment increase of revenue to VCMC due to the increase in state apportionment. And this is to offset actually the Huron contract benefits adjustments from $35 million, which was a high range, which was previously estimated, now down to the midpoint range, which is at $30 million, which reduced the revenue enhancement opportunity by $2.8 million and expense savings by $2.2 million. Along with that, we have made those adjustments against our capital projects previously on the $230,000 mentioned in the special accounts and contribution for Growing Works program and the long-term care ombudsman. And we have some savings because of the final transaction. We came in at a better rate and a lower amount of the sizing from $170 million to down to $145. So that gives us a savings of $800 as well as the premium on the interest on those trans of about $3.2 million. So this is also the breakdown for those non-general funds. Basically, those from Public Works and work protection districts, those are expenditures that are being rebudgeted because of some reprioritizing of those projects during 17-18, and now we're deferring those projects onto 2018-19. And VCMC has that $2.2 million effect on their appropriations, as mentioned earlier. And we have, due to the timing, we have the $2.9 million for Fire Protection District for those 10 additional positions for the City of Santa Paula's annexation. We have also 17 total FTE net change, and those are the breakdown, 6 for the for the CEO's office, 1 for the county clerk and recorder, and then the 5 positions for elections division, and then the probation of 5 being reduced because of the transfer going to the CEO's office, and then 10 again for the City of Santa Paula. Conclusion, so we've gotten all those neat presentation that we have for the several months about this whole budget, but we know that as we go on, there will be some adjustments in the budget, and we do that on a weekly board meetings on how we adjust the expenditures as well as the revenue. And we provide your board with quarterly updates on where the county would be and present some financial projections as well. The county as a whole is structurally balanced. We've maintained services. We have embedded the sustainability for the budgets in the, most of it is, of course, the contributions of the county workforce as a whole. In summary, this is actually credit to all the collaborative efforts for all our employees, diligent management, most of them are here today, your board direction and support, always out there to make sure that we're intact in terms of the fiscal discipline and decisions, and of course the department heads and fiscal leadership team. All of this resulted in structurally balanced budget, maintenance of service levels, even those expanded areas in safety, health, and social services. We continue to invest in technology and facilities, and we have built the reserves. As you can see, the trend for our unassigned and assigned balances.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. And so I just want to take a moment. So this is just like our basketball lineup here. Right? Playing tonight is our CEO budget team, our analyst team, led by K-Man, Scott Powers, Robert Bravo, Frank Chow, Mike Kumazawa, Sally Harrison, Chrissy Ortega, Scott Powers again. He's in there twice. Alejandro Diaz and Elvin McMullen. These folks do such a fabulous job year-round working with, supporting our departments, and helping piece all this huge budget together. So I just really want to thank the team. And I also want to remember our big part of our team we lost this year who passed, Judy Dance, forever part of our CEO budget family, and her warm spirit will be with our office and our team always. So we remember Judy. And then just lastly, I also want to thank our Chief Financial Officer for steering us into another great balanced budget and for your excellent years of commitment to our healthcare system and our county as a whole. So thank you very much, Ms. Rodriguez. Thank you.
And is this going to be your last budget presentation?
Yes, Supervisor.
I just can't imagine you doing civilian life, as it were. I can just picture her going into a grocery store or trying to buy a car. It's going to drive everybody crazy because she'll break everything down and she knows the cost of everything. And it will be. I know you have so much more left in you, but just thank you so much for the good service that you have given the county. We've been really fortunate to have you.
Thank you.
Completely agree.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I also wanted to thank Catherine, for the excellent work you've done. I've had the opportunity to travel with you, as I mentioned before, to Standard & Poor's, and with Michael too, and the excellent presentation you made before. Those folks are just excellent. Just for information, that whenever the Standard & Poor's people, they're pretty rough people. And they ask questions, and she was right in there answering those questions and did a really good job, as well as Michael and the rest of the team, So I just want to thank you for that. And congratulations on your retirement, and you'll be leaving here, the next 5 months, 6 months, or? Anyway, thank you for your good work. Thank you so much, and thank the whole team, for doing excellent work again, as I mentioned earlier today.
Thank you.
And of course, the whole thing we're doing is because of our constituency and the residents of Ventura County. They look to us, to provide the service, and we are providing the service to our residents, which is extremely important. This is why we're all here to provide that service. Public safety and also the financial and health and well-being for the entire county. Thank you so much.
Yes, Catherine, appreciate all the hard work that you put in for so long. Thank you. I remember when I first came here, you were just come here too, and trying to understand all the different pieces. Boy, you had all the answers, that's for sure.
You mean
had my
labor?
brain going. But I know John was trying to use up all my 12 minutes with his talk. But I knew he could.
I want to win here.
It's costing me
he
$1
couldn't
every
say.
minute. I made a bet with someone.
But I know it was all heartfelt what he was saying, so we do appreciate it. This is a big job, and we appreciate all the hard work and all the team to put this in. I mean, there's no this just doesn't happen. All the people out there that perform all the work and all the managers who lead and do that and all of you who put this together, it just doesn't happen. And, nobody, it just happens. People do work, and they work really hard to make this happen. I want to say thank you for your leadership and all that you've done. And the rest of your team. I know they're going to miss you, but I think they're well-trained. So thank you. Mike?
I'm sure we're going to have another time to make our final comments to you, so I'm going to save my comments there, but we all know how valuable you've been to this budget process, so thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So we are going to then, we have any public testimony at all? Do we have any comments? Public comments? No public comments? That's a testimony to you, Catherine.
John has 3 people.
Yeah, John has 3 or 4 people to talk here. Yeah, okay, John.
Thanks, I want to win.
So we're going to close the public hearing then, or evening. So now we're going to, okay, so we have to adopt Exhibits A and A.
Exhibit A, you have 2 documents there that comprise
We have 2
Exhibit
documents,
A.
everybody has this
They've been
document
presented to you in
here?
the PowerPoint.
Yes.
Yep.
These 2, they're there. We have to adopt those. So do we have a motion to adopt? We
Yes,
do?
I motioned.
We do have a motion and a second. We can all vote on that. Just don't want me to adopt. Here. Oh, you got to push the button.
We'll say that Supervisor Foy says yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we have adopted that, and now we're going to close this hearing, and then we're going to go to our adoption of the 2018-19 budget resolution, and we'll make this motion here is the motion to adopt the budget resolution, including adoption of the grant limit Proposition 4, Laura's Law resolution as followed. 1 is to move the resolution adopting the Ventura County General Fund and other fund budgets for fiscal year 2018-19 with the gain limit resolution of Laura's Law. And then 2, to move the approved resolution, right? And adopting the budget of Ventura County Fire District for fiscal year 2018-19. And then we're to move the resolution adopting the budget of Ventura County Watershed Protection District for fiscal year 2018-19.
One question. Does that budget include funding for the cookies that we had for next year?
Well, we're
going to have to pull from reserves for that.
We have to have those cookies.
We only needed about half as many, except there were some people who were filling their pockets and leaving. I don't remember. I think there was a whole team of people from some certain office.
The hospital has really good cookies.
Anyway, so, okay, so we have a motion for that and a second. I'm going to try it again. Just doesn't want me to adopt this budget. And there you go. And thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. And there's the budget for 2018-19 for Ventura County.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Let me make comments. Very good. Mr. Powers, I do want to congratulate you on another budget. And I also want to congratulate you on a streamlined, simple as my last one here, process of going through this. I know years ago we used to kind of go back and forth a lot of different things that have all been worked out. You've made this something easy, simple. I want to use the word easy for us to understand and simple. I know all the hard work that you lead through this, and I want to appreciate you and your team. It's, people want to follow good leadership, and so I thank you for that and the opportunity to be part of what you've all done, from the auditor's office to all the other people that are involved with this. And I appreciate county council and the things that they do to make this happen. Again, one of the biggest counties in the state. Sometimes we look at that, you think about 3,000 counties in the country, and we're one of the top largest counties in the country. So it's something, because we're next to LA, we don't think of it that way. But this is a big deal, spending a couple $2 billion and serving almost 1 million people here. So I just thank you for your leadership on this.
And also the clerk's office.
Well, the clerks, well, hold it. They run the whole thing. So we're just somebody. So anyway, so again, and all of you again, thank you for allowing us to have. Let's have another great year, and look forward to serving with you all for the rest of this next 6 months. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
very much,
it.
everyone. Good job.
And we're going to adjourn.